ago, it was the Tim Kerr show again. An artistic deflection in Game 6 became one of his 2 goals in the contest. Pittsburgh tightened the game, but Ron Sutter's pass was sent into his own net by Penguins defenseman Rod Busquets. 6-2, the Flyers eventually won. Late game scraps are only a memory. The swords have been finally put aside. All hockey is focused on the Steel City of Pittsburgh. After tonight, the field for the Stanley Cup is down to just 4. Live from the Civic Arena in Pittsburgh, Sports Channel presents the 1989 Stanley Cup playoffs. Tonight, Game 7 of the Patrick Division Finals featuring the Philadelphia Flyers and the Pittsburgh Penguins. On a damp, gray, early evening in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Good evening, everyone. This is Bill Clement. I'm Mike Emmerich, and we're pleased to be here for Game 7 of this Patrick Division Final. If you look to experience, the Flyers, the older, more experienced team, and also when it comes to what we call ultimate games, the game that is the very last one of any series, the Flyers have the edge there. 18 of their players have been in ultimate games, and only 5 of the Penguins.
Well, Mike, you said something right at the top that I thought is interesting. You said, we're pleased to be here. You know, the Pittsburgh Penguins had a chance to move on to the Montreal Canadiens in Game 6. They didn't get by the Flyers, so I know a lot of the Penguins came back biting their tongues on that flight from Philadelphia, saying, we had a chance and we let them off the hook. It'll be interesting to see how the young team reacts tonight. Similarly, the Philadelphia Flyers are happy to be here. They've faced elimination once in this playoff year already and passed the test, now on to Game 7, and that's what it's all about, Game 7.
Oh, yeah. Tim Kerr has had 3 2-goal games in a row, plus a 3-goal natural hat trick here. He's been sensational in the series.
And you know what a lot of people forget, Mike, is the Tim Kerr story. Remember, 5 shoulder operations, the last of which happened less than a year ago. Tim Kerr is lucky even to be in uniform tonight, let alone leading the National Hockey League playoffs in goal scoring and total points. In games such as this, in Game 7s, the superstars have to do their thing, and naturally, a lot will fall on the shoulders of Tim Kerr tonight.
And a lot on Mario Lemieux's shoulders. He handled it so well in game number 5. Flyers shut him down in the 6th game, though. He didn't even have any points.
Well, you know, Mario Lemieux has started the last 3 games with a breakaway, remember? He scored in Game 5, and the Penguins went on to a big win. But in Games 4 and 6, Ron Hextall stopped him. I think it's important for Mario Lemieux, for his sake, to do something earlier in this hockey game to establish his dominance. The longer the Flyers can keep him off the board, even in the early going, the further they will go to containing the entire Penguins team, I believe.
All right, what do we look for early in this game besides trying to contain Lemieux?
Well, it's not only Lemieux. I think the Penguins have to do something in the first 10 minutes of this hockey game, because if you track back through this series, you'll see that the Flyers have gotten stronger in every game as it has progressed. First period, second period, third period, and they end up taking it away from the Penguins as the game goes on. So it's important tonight for the Flyers to hold for their sake and for the Penguins to get something early for their sake.
It started 2 weeks ago, a best of 7, then a best of 5, a best of 3 tonight, best of 1, opening face-off in just a moment.
The 1989 Stanley Cup playoffs on Sports Channel, brought to you by Mercury, celebrating its 50th year, by Citicorp, because Americans want to succeed, not just survive, by MasterCard. You can count on MasterCard to master the moment. By Kodacolor Gold Film, show your true colors. And by First Brands Corporation, makers of STP's Son of a Gun Protectant. Son of a Gun, what a difference.
4-4 in Game 7. One last year when they lost to the Caps in the opening round. In '87, they had 2. They beat the Islanders to advance to the Stanley Cup semifinals. They're all set at the Igloo. Flyers and Penguins, Game 7 of the Patrick Division Finals. Mike Emmerich, Bill Clement standing by at the Civic Arena.
Now to 16,025. These people sense they've got a good shot now.
Mike, I've been coming here for 18 years, and it's the loudest I've heard them. I sometimes think that fans that have to cheer in cities like Pittsburgh have an inferiority complex. But they can smell it tonight. They want to move ahead and be winners tonight.
For Game 7, Don Koharski, the backup Bill McCreary, the linesman Ron Finn and Kevin Collins. Last playoff start for Ken Reggett was as a Leaf, 10th of April of '88 against Detroit. At the other end, for the first time, he's in a 7th game. He lost his only other ultimate game, a 5th game for the Buffalo Sabres 4 years ago. Cullen, Callender, and Bourque, the best plus players among the forward lines the Penguins have. Dineen and Johnson in back. Berube, Sutter, and Tocchet, no change there. Chychrun and Kartner, the defense, no change there. John Cullen wins the opening draw to Dineen, then across to Johnson. It is worked back up once more. Unable to jab it back in, though. That time was Dineen, and now it is floated ahead by Chychrun. Good shoulder by Bourque. You watch for physical play, and of course there are other things to look for in these opening minutes. Puck worked back across to Craig Berube, who starts back up with Tocchet. Shovels on for Tocchet's drive. That is snatched, then dropped, and then thrown along by Barrasso. John Cullen, good hit on him by Tocchet. And Tocchet kicked it back in deep. Barrasso floats one off the glass, and this one escapes all the way back down. Shift change on for the Penguins, and Lemieux steps over the boards.
All right, this is where the Flyers have to be careful, Mike. Mario Lemieux has had breakaways on his first shift in more games than not during the season and the playoffs.
Smith tried for Coffey, didn't get him. Rob Brown brings it ahead. Wedged by Howe, the play goes offside. 59 seconds gone in this first period of play. And I guess they always say the first 10 minutes are so critical in any hockey game. How do you see this tonight, Bill?
I think especially critical, Mike. In every game in this series, the Flyers have gotten stronger as the game has progressed. And if the Penguins want to do anything against the Flyers tonight, I think they have to do it early, as they did in Game 5, to rattle the Flyers. I think if the Flyers can hold tough and not let the Penguins get any momentum in the first 10 minutes of this game, they're going to win the hockey game. That's how important I think the first 10 minutes are going to be.
It is Coffey, Zalapsky, then for Lemieux, tapped away from him by Poulin. In to get it is Samuelson. It's brushed behind for Poulin, but Lemieux up with it. Forced off by Dave Poulin. Puck came right over for Hillier. Feeds one to the slot. Weak drive by Airy. Lemieux across. Oh, and a shot was tipped away. As throwing it toward the net was Rob Brown. Lemieux had Brown, it seemed, all alone, but not so. Back up is Howe. Headman's on to Derek Smith. Got away from a check. Moves in a shot, and that one grabbed by Barrasso, and he holds on. Interesting that Paul Holmgren got the Mellenby, Derek Smith, and Poulin combination out against Mario Lemieux, even though we're on the road.
He hasn't had much trouble doing that in this series. I think Gino Briacco thinks Mario Lemieux can do it no matter who's out on the ice. That might be the case on some nights, but I know Paul Holmgren is real happy when he can get Poulin out there with Mellenby and with Derek Smith. And I think Kenny Reggett may have made an outstanding save early. It was tough from where we sit to see this, but I think Rob Brown actually got rid of this shot. That didn't tell too much, did it? Mario Lemieux tried to feed it across to him.
The Penguins have had 5 players who have played in an ultimate game in a Stanley Cup playoff series before. The Flyers have 18. To take the draw, Keith Acton opposite Mario Lemieux. Remember, they're bantering in Game 4. How many rings you got? Puck across now, and Hillier locks up with Eklund. Puck controlled by Coffey. Floated further to be taken by Dan Quinn. And Quinn turns it back off for Stevens. He falls. Flips one that is collared by Shell Samuelson. And Samuelson starts it back up then to Eklund. Dropped back along, and Stevens lost it. Eklund with a little pass, controlled, and then lost by Acton. Tim Kerr goes in, and is shoved along the boards, and it's Acton taking over. Drops it back off to Pelle Eklund. Eklund got away from a hit by Coffey, but then could not control. Forced back near Shell Samuelson. And we get an offside call. 17:51 to go in this opening period. We have no score from a sold-out Civic Arena in Pittsburgh.
To understand Asia, you have to understand its customs, its mystery, its people. You have to know what makes a good impression and what offends. For over 40 years, we've been learning about Asia. So in addition to our convenient schedules, we can give you something no other U.S. airline can. The knowledge that comes after 40 years of helping people do business in Asia.
Not many lineup changes tonight for the Flyers. Only Ron Hextall. That is the only change, and boy, oh boy, it is a big one. For the Penguins, Jock Callender is back in. Randy Hillier is back in. He has a broken toe, but he is playing anyway, and he's an important addition to the Penguins, I think, Mike, because he's Coffey's partner.
You mentioned the difference in experience in these games, but we think the home crowd will help. That's how the Penguins feel coming into this. Loose puck, Tocchet fed one in front that is tapped away by Quinn. Dealt along by Stevens, but that into the pinching Jay Wells. Puck fed off now, and Buska's given a shove by Rick Tocchet. Tocchet, another one of the many players, both these lineups, who are playing with ailments. Tocchet's is a knee. Buck caromed across now to Murphy. Puck stolen, though, by Stevens, and a shot that went off Reggett's rebound. It turned off Gord Murphy. That was the first Penguin shot. Backhander by Stevens, blocked away by Murphy over the glove hand of Cunneyworth. Quinn tried to work further, but couldn't. It's Propp outletting on for Rick Tocchet, but it took from him, and turning with it is Zalapski. Flyers make another change. They have the Poulin unit out along with Derek Smith. Propp dumps along, and Poulin is there to get it. Fans applauding a thundering check. We just noticed that Stevens and Wells were at the boards. Puck flipped on net by Bork, and that off the glove of Reggett. Deflected away by Dave Poulin and scooped up by Mellanby, but no matter. Down on the ice is Cullen. A flag will be called to the Flyers, and the first power play of this 7th game will belong to the Penguins.
For the fire, for the drive, for pushing hard each time you try, for the heroes staying true, for the team for coming through this one for you.
World champions for the 4th year in a row, the Budweiser King, and Motor Week's Driver of the Year, Kenny Bernstein.
Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh for you.
There have been so many important variables in this series, and power plays have been one. Penalty killing obviously goes hand in hand. The Flyers penalty killers will have a test early here in Game 7 because of this penalty to Derek Smith. Right there, Don Koharski had his arm up to call the slash that happened long before Cullen was pushed into the board. So the Penguins power play that set an NHL record for power play goals this season is out first.
Rob Brown rolls it off. Shell Samuelson there to take it. Flipped on back, and Bork is there. That one knocked loose by Lemieux. Still the battle on, and it's fed to Rob Brown. Brown points it on back to Coffey. Coffey spins to Lemieux. Quickly, Bork a shot, and that one went wide. Around it comes, and is poked back out by Ron Sutter. Pivoting with this is Bork. 16-12 to go, first period of play, no score. Bork able to dance around Howe. Bork steps behind, trying to get away from Samuelson. Then he held on to Samuelson's stick. Meanwhile, the puck tapped further by Poulin. Battle still on. Mario Lemieux able to step away with it. Lemieux backhands to the slot. Oh, and a shot by Quinn is held by Reggett. And a stoppage of play.
Well, what an initiation. Ken Reggett's first playoff start in the Flyers uniform. Now he faces the power play, and he makes an outstanding save right here. But you had to know what Mario Lemieux was going to try here. He can't shoot right there, so Ken Reggett had to be anticipating that pass across to Dan Quinn, and he got over there very quickly. You have to think that the Penguins want to get some rubber on Ken Reggett early too, Mike. I mean, I know the Penguins are saying, let's test him, let's see what he's got. Ken Reggett's looked real cool to me so far.
He has faced 2 shots. The second one, the one that steamed in on him from Quinn, the toughest. At the other end, Tom Barrasso has had a couple of casual shots. Again, for those of you just joining us, we'll tell you that the Flyers are in this 7th game without goaltender Ron Hextall. An injury in Game 6 acted up this morning, and he could not play. A first-degree sprain of the right knee. And so it is Ken Reggett, the man for whom they traded on March the 6th, who is in the goal tonight. No score. Penguins are on the power play. 50 seconds still to go on this power play, and 3.5 minutes gone in the first period. Peeling back out with this now is Zarley Zalapski. Poke checked away by Samuelson. Worked along by Stevens, but to Brian Propp. Loses, but back over for Poulin, and Poulin able to turn it further. Now a battle on as we get a stoppage of play. Callender eye to eye with Dave Poulin. Dave Poulin, Brian Propp, and Mark Howe, 3 of the 4 out there right now, have been killing penalties together for 6 years. Very rarely do you ever get a group that will stay together on a line or in any combination that long.
Shell Samuelson's been with them for, what, the last 3 as well.
Right.
So even that is a long-time unit. That's one of the keys to their success. They have a great sense for one another. But they will not have Ron Hextall for that quick up-ice pass. There is no comparison between the puck-handling abilities of Ken Reggett and Ron Hextall. Ken Reggett's a fine puck stopper, but not a puck mover like Hextall. And you know, in a game like tonight, Mike, in a 7th game, both teams facing elimination, everybody wants to avoid that big mistake early, that big turnover early. So far, both teams have gotten away with it. Nobody's made the big turnover, and You have to think that if the Flyers can pressure the Penguins, that they would have a tendency to make the mistake because they're younger and they haven't faced this situation. You know, you've already gone over the experience that the Flyers have.
This one comes back out after Coffey tried one of his rushes. Now it is Eklund to Samuelson, and that one plopped right in on Barrasso. We're down to the last 15 seconds of the Pittsburgh power play. No score from Civic Arena, first period of play. All eyes on the hockey world on this one tonight. It is the only game going. Centering attempt by Coffey, and that tapped off the back of the goal, controlled by Mark Howe. He's got Keith Acton, and out of the penalty box, it was Derek Smith, but it's cut off and controlled by Rob Brown. Turns it along for Lemieux. Lemieux works across to Zalapsky, who steps further. Samuelson just stride for stride, matching him. Zalapsky tries, but that one ricocheted back out. Jim Johnson drops, and Lemieux carries. Wrist shot, and a save made by Reggett. Good stiff wrist shot by Mario Lemieux. Back up ice now comes Derek Smith. Tries to worm his way through, but Johnson says no. Hauls Smith down, and there'll be a penalty coming up to Pittsburgh. On the delayed call, getting the puck is Kartner, as to the bench comes Reggett, and over the boards is Bullard, the extra man on this delayed call. Up ice with it comes Derek Smith. Bullard set the pick. Smith tried to pass in front and couldn't. Couple of players overskate, and finally the Penguins touch, and we get the halt to play. 13:52 to go in this first period of play. The Flyers to get their first power play crack. No score. Let's pause for a regional break. You're watching the Stanley Cup playoffs on Sports Channel. Jim Johnson hauled down Derek Smith. Johnson has been a strong performer on defense for a team that was viewed all year as very vulnerable in that department. But he is off on the minor penalty, and so the Flyers get their first power play opportunity. They are 19 for 69 in the playoffs. It is Murphy. Bothered by Loney, a give up to Hannon. Hannon, a backhander, blocked down by Reggett. Jabbing at it is Murphy. Tries to free it for Tocchet, but Hannon with good control kicks it back in deep.
Mike, there's one of those first big mistakes I was talking about. Gordy Murphy sent that one up the middle. Dave Hannon cut it, and Reggett once again showed that he's ready to play tonight.
Ahead now comes Mike Bullard. Sachets by one. Pivots and tried to feed the point, but it went off of Koharski. Then a drive by Kerr is blocked down. Tocchet able to step to it as Barrasso came up with a big stop there. Puck dumped back along, but off the stick of Tim Kerr. Picked up by Zalapsky. Banks one, but it's kept by Howe, and straying all the way at center ice was Lemieux. Across it comes to Kerr. Still a minute to go on the power play as it's worked back to Mark Howe. Hands over to Murphy. Murphy readies the gun, but doesn't pull the trigger yet. Hands over to Howe. Lost it over the line. Lemieux trying to step away. Howe trying to cut him off. And Mark Howe able to out-wrestle Mario Lemieux, who comes to the bench for a shift change. 40 seconds to go power play. Back on with it is Murphy. Drops it to the wall, and it is Dineen driving it back down. Bill mentioned the first 10 minutes critical in this game, especially to the Penguins. 7:45 of the 10 minutes have passed. Loose puck off of Mellenby. Fights his way to the front. Wrestled up. Rebound. It's sent wide, and the net becomes dislodged. A face-off to result near Tom Barrasso, who has started to see some Flyers pressure now.
Boy, if there was any doubt about Scott Mellenby's desire to contribute to a seventh game, it is verified now, boy. He is hungry to play. You saw him drive to the net, and anybody that saw Game 6 saw Scott Mellenby make a couple of plays that required just great effort, great individual effort. And he went for that one off balance right into the net. Busquets finally just threw him back into the post, and that's what dislodged the net. But Scott Mellenby has been a part of what I think is the perfect playoff line. Dave Poulin at center, Scott Mellenby on the right side, Derek Smith on the left side. They've scored 9 goals in combination, and they're so strong defensively. They hardly ever slip up. They're all plus players in the playoffs. I know there's not a team around that wouldn't take that line. Poulin, Mellenby, and Derek Smith in the playoffs.
Yeah, attributing that quote that we had, that we are getting those three on Lemieux on the road, that was Andy Murray, who is one of the Flyers' 3 coaching brain trusts. And the thought about the Penguins' inexperience being countered by the crowd, Gene Ubriaco the head coach of the Penguins, as Brian Propp starts back with this one, centered one off the back of the net, fought every inch of the way by Busquets. It is Sutter, tipping one, backhander by Propp, steered away, scramble at the net mouth, and that one went off Barrasso, and they tried an outlet pass for Johnson, fresh from the penalty box, but it went by him. So it is Reggett tending to Kartner, turns it back on to Ron Sutter. 11:40 to go, first period of play. The teams are back at full strength. Both clubs have had one thrust on the power play and have come up empty. 5 shots for the Flyers, 4 shots for the Penguins. 1 minor penalty apiece. Terry Kartner holds. Dan Quinn, the forechecker. Now Cunninworth moves over to Chikrin, causes him some trouble, but Chikrin recovered. Out to Mellenby. Across it's turned over to Terry Kartner. Shovels one off the boards that Barrasso stops behind and leads for Paul Coffey. See if Coffey tries his acceleration. Nope, he'll go for the pass. Ahead it is forced by Stevens, but right to Gord Murphy. Murphy, the rookie defenseman, hands right back to Keith Axton, who worms his way in. Checked down by Paul Coffey. In comes Tim Kerr, locking up there with Hillier and able to step away as Stevens. Gives on to Coffey, trying to fight his way from Eklund, and here comes Coffey gliding in. Big drive, and it went off the glass wide. Dumped back along by Quinn, scooped up by Murphy. Off the stick of Kerr, it goes down. Barrasso goes charging out, wants to keep play alive here. Both teams at full strength. If you're just joining us, no score. Ron Hextall is not in the Flyers' goal. He has an injured knee. It is a first-degree sprain. He cannot play tonight. The backup is Mark Laforce to Reggett. As a shot is kicked back out by Ken Reggett. As walking right in was Cullen. Man, oh man, has this man been tested. Along now it's Poulin. Drops to Wells. Drive, and that one went wide. Picked up by Mellenby. Looks to the front. Couldn't get it there. Up blocked by Deneen. Scoops it back on to Cullen. John Cullen moving out, has Callender to his right, Bork to his left, drops one in deep. Shift change on for the Penguins. As colliding with Reggett, Shell Samuelson, and Reggett's helmet had popped off. He does not wear a chin strap on that helmet, and it has come off on the force of the collision with Samuelson.
Well, my question is answered. Today I was talking to some players. I said, I wonder if the play gets blown down if a goalie's mask comes off. I've never seen it happen. Here it is, and you're right. He doesn't wear a chin strap. That's why it came off.
A hand pass has stopped play. We're scoreless midway in the first period. For a regional break. You're watching the Stanley Cup playoffs on Sports Channel.
Here's what happened to Ken Reggett and his helmet. Shell Samuelson was trying to get by him and caught him with the shoulder. That popped it right off. We're going to give you a close-up of that mask and the helmet when we get a chance.
Right now we have Sutter in an altercation with Mario Lemieux. They brushed up against one another 2 or 3 times, and now a Penguin went down. That was Rob Brown on a shove by Shell Samuelson. Mark Howe has, I believe it's Randy Hillier with his fist in his face.
Meanwhile, Rick Tocchet had his fist in Paul Coffey's face. Well, now they're dropping the gloves, both Coffey and Tocchet. One of the reasons that this game is so hard to handicap, this 7th game, is because Paul Coffey and Mario Lemieux are playing in it. You don't know how they're going to react, but they are the 2 most dominant players in the game. The Flyers, as a team, far more balanced, far better defensively, but a lot of this game is going to rest in the hands of Paul Coffey and Mario Lemieux. And so far, the signs that I've seen is that Paul Coffey is revved up and ready to go, Mike.
Yeah.
The neutral zone will be key for the Flyers. Paul Coffey likes the right side of the neutral zone so that he crosses the blue line on his backhand side. The Flyers have pretty well denied that in this series. They're going to have to again tonight.
Some of you may be surprised by the mutual parting of the two. Keep in mind, both are playing hurt. Coffey with a bad right-hand thumb and Tocchet with a bad right knee. Now, Brian Propp, while we were away in the last commercial break, was helped down to the dressing room. It looked as though one of the trainers was side by side. Whether he was leaning on him for support and weight, we couldn't tell because we just noticed it as he was disappearing under the canopy.
Number 22, Rick Tocchet, a double minor for roughing. Pittsburgh penalty. Number 66, Mario Lemieux, 2 for roughing. Number 77, Paul Coffey.
Gino, 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 Well, there aren't many people here that are happy with that call. Now, you see Paul Coffey's reaction? He is usually an unemotional guy. That is a huge reaction for Paul Coffey, and I think that'll tell you just how revved up he is to play. And I was looking down on the bench, Mike. I thought it was Brian Propp that went off as well, but
our indication up here was that it was Brian Propp, but now we look down and we see that Keith Acton is not at the bench.
I thought I just saw Propp on the ice, and now I see Propp on the bench, so I think it was Acton.
Okay.
Acton wears number 20. Acton wears 25 and Propp wears 26. There's a lot going on here tonight. This is a jam-packed building, a jam-packed press box, all kinds of television feeds going out of here. French Canada is here, English Canada.
And there's the guy who played here for the years in which they would get to the playoffs and go out quickly, and then for some of the years which they would not get in the playoffs at all. Right off the face-off, another penalty has been called, and it'll be a Penguin who will go off, and so the Flyers will get their second power play opportunity of the game.
There's the man, Kevin Stevens, and I think it was Ilka Sinisalo that he tripped right off the draw. Top of your screen, top middle. Stevens was lining up with Sinisalo, and he hooked him down just as Sinisalo was closing the gap on George Deneen. So it's crowded in the boxes already.
All right, an update, Bill. 10:31 gone, so the Flyers have survived those first 10 minutes of play.
I not only think that the Flyers have survived, Mike, but Ken Reagan has been awesome. I mean, that toe save that he made on John Cullen was just outstanding.
Can you imagine in terms of preparation time, goaltenders like to know the day before. Some of them will say, okay, the morning is all right. Just imagine what Ken Reagan's afternoon has been like since getting the word this morning.
Well, we saw him going upstairs on an elevator, and at that time he had to know that he had a good chance of playing. I was talking to him about his pre-gamer. He said he ate spaghetti and chicken. I was just trying to find out what he liked the day of the game, and he was just loose. He's a goalie. He's a loose guy. What can you say?
And he's played in a lot of playoff games. His record is 13-11. All of those games with Toronto. Laid back down by Bork, and the Penguins have killed off the first 30 seconds. So Reggett taps over for Murphy, and Gord Murphy starts to advance it back out for Kerr. Puck left right behind, though, and so Howe had to come over, and right on him is Loney, and Howe goes down. Loney on top, and the puck underneath. We get a stoppage of play. The loudest response I've ever heard for a scratch occurred tonight after the fans had seen the warm-up, and some of them were still skeptical, thinking that maybe the Flyers had put out two other goaltenders and were going to eventually come out with Hextall. But then when he was announced as a scratch, there was a big response.
Well, we finally get a chance to show you Ken Reagan's helmet. You can see that he doesn't have a strap underneath his chin. He's just got the one strap that holds the cage down, that holds the cage to the helmet. That's why it pops off.
Puck taken by Terry Kartner. Kartner moving back up ice, has Chychrun alongside on this power play. Second one of the game for the Flyers. Around it kicks, and it is Barrasso. Flinging one that went off the glass and right back to Kartner. Both teams have attacked so far on their power play, but have not scored. Sinisalo to Chychrun, across to Kartner. Fires one, save made by Barrasso. Rebound picked up, circling is Bullard. Fakes a drive, shovels it back off to Ilka Sinisalo. Sinisalo taken off the play. Chychrun responds. Back to Bullard, looks for Kerr, got it to him, but he fanned on the shot, and then was hit by Johnson, as now it's one-on-one, Airy on Jeff Chychrun. And just enough of a poke check by Chychrun to send Airy offside. 27 seconds to go on the Flyers power play.
There's Zarley Zalapski at the ripe old age of 20 in his first 7th game in the National Hockey League. Good play by Jeff Chychrun. You saw the two Penguins pinched right over to the board, so there was a huge seam to get it into Mike Bullard. Bullard with a good play to Kerr. That was a pretty good play by Jimmy Johnson, who came out and just was able to tap Kerr's stick to break up the play. But the Flyers have, in every game, been able to generate pretty good puck control in their power play and pretty good opportunities.
It has been strange, hasn't it? A power failure, a goaltender leaving because of double vision, an early goal light at the Spectrum, preceding a Flyers goal by 5 to 10 seconds. Last-minute fisticuffs in the last two games, and then tonight the Flyers star goaltender unable to play. Here's Mellanby, forced off by Busquets, and Hannon able to tap it back out. The Penguins are down to the last 8 seconds of the kill. Murphy pivots away from Bourque. Puck escapes all the way off Mellanby's stick and is hatcheted right back in and wide. A good hard drive by Rob Busquets. Teams are back at full strength, and the Penguins fans responding to the work of their penalty killers. Zalatsky back. It is Kropp finessing for Mellanby. Turnaround shot, and that's blocked off by Barrasso. Brought back up by Dan Quinn. Hands on to Cunneyworth. Trying to shake by Murphy. Wedged along by Murphy. In for the freight train came Stevens. Murphy hit by Cunneyworth, but the puck picked up by Brian Kropp and laid back out to Eklund. Shoveled up the wing for Scott Mellanby. Surrounded by Gold and Black. Outlet pass brought on by Kevin Stevens. Sides up by Howe, and the shot went wide. Cunneyworth is there. Shouldered by Samuelson. Stevens pressed to the boards by Dave Poulin in the fight on. Help came from Samuelson, and the big defenseman lays it back on for Mike Bullard. Bullard stepping ahead, laying it on to Mark Howe. Howe floats one that comes for Derek Smith. Hit hard by Johnson. Bullard wedged off. Tried to center, but it was blocked away by Bourque. Picked up by Hillier and dumped back off to Jock Callender. Worked out now to John Cullen. Along with Callender, Cullen able to control. Over for Callender, a shot, and that one blocked away by Regan. Turnarounder, and that one flung through the crease by Johnson. Back it comes. Johnson again. Blocked high by Regan. Rebound off the high stick of Mark Howe. Howe moves in, and as he touched that before Callender, puck played by a high stick is the call. Stopping the clock with 6:04 to go in the first period, no score. It has been a tremendous game thus far, charged with all sorts of emotion. 7 shots apiece.
Boy, it has been a walk in the park for Ken Regan. He has been so cool. Tom Barrasso has made a couple of excellent saves. And I don't care who you're cheering for. If you're seventh game fans and hockey fans, you don't want to see a guy make a mistake early that costs. As far as excellent play, we have seen it here in the first period. We got 6:04 to go, and this is the stuff that seventh games are made of. I think this has been outstanding.
Regan blocked that one down. Rob Brown fired it across the goal mouth wide. Meanwhile, two adversaries, Sutter and Lemieux, were going at it as you watch Mellanby step ahead. His drive, oh, and just snagged by Barrasso and put right back into play by Jimmy Johnson.
Boy, did Mellanby pay the price, and he's still talking to Hillier after his shot. Hillier sent him head over heels.
Lemieux flips one in front, backhand attempt, knocked down another one, and it's held to the side of the net by Ken Regan. Big action at both ends of the ice. Barrasso, with the snap of his glove, just got what we would call in baseball an ice cream cone. And at the other end, then Regan sprawl.
Watch it. I'm not sure we'll see Hillier's hit. No, we won't. But watch this save by Tom Barrasso. I think that might have had the top corner. Tough to tell from this angle. But at the other end, give Mario Lemieux the blue line, and he's going to try and do something constructive with it. That was actually a pass that hit Jimmy Johnson up in the shin pad. Lemieux ended up getting the rebound from it, dumping it out front. Bob Airy couldn't corral it, but so far Ken Regan wins the Mr. Cool Award.
Sutter stays out. Lemieux has come off, and it'll be Sutter and Dan Quinn. Shell Samuelson turns with this one. Tries for Mellanby, but instead gets Dineen. Without a stick is Cunneyworth. He gets it fresh from the bench as it is worked along and picked up by Quinn. Flips one over. That is one time by Dineen, and that's blocked away by Regan. It is Howe. Right there waiting for it is Brian Kropp. And now it is out to Ron Sutter. Sutter trying to move through Zalatsky, but it's brushed off. And we get a whistle and stoppage of play, and we may have too many men on the ice called here. We'll have to go away. We'll pick up the...
Well, the tail end of the call. You may have heard right there, Mike. You were right. So the first communications breakdown has happened to the Flyers. And Mike, I can't remember the last time the Flyers had a bench minor for too many men on the ice. Their communication is so good. Paul Holmgren has such control of the bench. Something obviously broke down there. usually it's that two players assume they are replacing the same player that comes on, so two guys go over the boards. Well, the other reason it usually happens is that a player will come to the bench, the player will go on to replace him, and the player coming off turns back into the play.
Sensing it's going to develop right to him, probably.
Yeah, but not realizing that the guy has already jumped the gun and gone over the boards. But one way or the other, the Flyers have a power play here to face and a penalty to kill.
First bench penalty to the Flyers in the playoffs, and the first too many men penalty in a long time. Since February, that's as far back as we've gone just yet. Puck thrown all the way back down the ice by Shell Samuelson, and it is cradled by Barrasso. Penguins have had two too many men on the ice penalties, both of them occurring in the same game in this series. Puck wrapped around, and off of Reggett it goes. Samuelson takes care of Rob Brown. Reggett lifts one that curled back around for Brian Propp. Outlets it on to Dave Poulin. One-on-one with Zalapsky. Poulin moves. Centers one off of Lemieux's stick, and it's scooped up by Brian Propp. Propp had that forced away by Lemieux, and he gets it back again quickly from Zalapsky and moves on Samuelson. Lemieux crosses, takes a look at his options, has Zalapsky and gives to him. Zalapsky works the other side of the umbrella to Coffey. Coffey sent one in front. That hit off the stick of Quinn. Quinn loses to Brian Propp and back up. Propp and Poulin come in a tandem. Halfway through the penalty kill. Poulin a drive, and that's grabbed off by Barrasso. Lost his stick for a moment, but the Flyers were regrouping at center. On with this Zalapsky. Rolls one that hit a glass support, then hopped on the rail and flopped back down, trying to throw it along with Cullen, but it's taken over by Derek Smith. And Smith shoots it back down the ice.
Well, there's no question that the Flyers penalty killers are dominating the Penguins' power play right now. So with the Penguins at this stage, if they don't spruce up their power play, what they have to hope for is just sheer numbers. Hope that the Flyers are going to take enough penalties to get their power play out there, because this penalty killing unit, Propp and Poulin are the first two forwards. Now Eklund and Smith out front with the defense. They're just eating them up. The Penguins didn't even come close.
18 seconds yet to kill as Lemieux fed one back, and we have a whistle and stoppage of play.
Icing.
Icing is called against the Penguins while on the power play, and Gene Ubriaco says, come on. And he was looking where there were no officials at the time. So it might have been he was saying that to one of his players.
But it's funny, even with Ken Reggett in goal, Ron Hextall handles the puck so well. I wondered why the Penguins always try the hard around. They don't seem to have much system to penetrate the zone and set up, even when Lemieux or Coffey is carrying the puck up the ice. So they tried hard arounds, and I thought that might have been just to make sure that Ron Hextall didn't get the puck, but they're still trying it with Ken Reggett. All right, let's see about this icing call here. Here's the shot from center. Well, guess what? Those aren't usually called. Gene Ubriaco had a legitimate gripe right there, Mike. I mean, the stick looked like it was still in contact with the puck and when it crossed the center line, and those aren't usually called, especially in seventh games.
It's interesting. He was looking toward the far corner near where this faceoff is occurring, and there was no one there, really. The only man that we noticed was Barrasso. Maybe he was flexing his neck away at the time. Or maybe in a seventh game, he's talking to the wall. They asked him, what about momentum? He said, if I could tell you that, I'd set up a tent and read palms. He looks on as we do at this face-off involving Sutter and Quinn. Off the tie-up, Ron Sutter, and a shot, and that's scooped up by Barrasso, and a stoppage of play.
Face-offs obviously so key in a seventh game. The Flyers were absolutely dominant in Game 6. In face-offs at the Spectrum 2 nights ago. And you don't always necessarily get a good shot on goal or get a scoring chance, but just imagine the extra work that a team has to do to get the puck back when they lose the face-off. It's a lot of work right away. You're man-to-man. See how people are lining up here. You end up tight to people very often, and it takes a lot of energy to fight by people to try and get the puck back. This time the Penguins win.
Down to the last nickel's worth on the power play. As ahead comes Deneen. Last one that ricocheted around came over toward Ron Sutter. Sutter pinched on by Cunnyworth. Turnaround shot went wide by Quinn. Kept alive by Deneen. A good keep at the line. And now we get a stoppage of play as they say no. Offside is the call. 3:02 to go in this opening period. Still scoreless. Teams at even strength. Tony Esposito pacing. He could only go back and forth from one skate to the other when he was playing all these years. Remember how he used to go back and forth, waiting for a face-off? Now he's got a little more room to work up there. And he is within 10 feet of the owner, Edward DeBartolo Sr. Buck flipped back in, and going back to get that is Mark Howell. Howell drilled it along, and Sutter tried to steer further, hoping to get it to Prop, and he did. Scoop back on for Ron Sutter. Drops for Tocchet, but instead, it is Randy Hillier. And quickly, the Penguins force one out, and a pass from Coffey over for Lemieux broken down. Now it is Prop connecting with Sutter. Hit by Hillier. Brian Prop tries to step free. Got it to Tocchet. A shot save. Rebound, and it's first wide, and Sutter only got part of it. Tocchet shakes it back to Howe. Quickly to Samuelson. Drive, and that blocked down. Rebound, and another save. Across. They score! Brian Prop. It is 1-0 in favor of the Flyers.
Hard work. That's all this one is about. Rick Tocchet was robbed, first of all, by Tom Barrasso, but there you see Brian Prop's guffaw, and this is a huge goal. 2:19 to go in the first period. Samuelson took a nice pass from Howe, drilled it. The rebound wasn't controlled by Barrasso, and he went down. We have talked a lot about Tom Barrasso being flat on the ice in this series, but I think in this case, he didn't have a choice but to stay down, Mike. When he lost that rebound, he tried to protect down low early, but the Flyers capitalized and take the lead. And it, to me, is a significant goal, not only because it's a 1-0 lead, because that is even opposite of what the Penguins needed to do here in the first period. The Flyers, to me, have had exactly the type of first period that they needed.
Finally, play is broken down, and the Penguins can outlet. Looked as though they were going for the stoppage there, but it is dumped along for Cullen. Cullen eyed up now by Wells and boom to the board. Cullen goes right back and meets up with Mike Bullard. Wells nearby, dumps one off the boards in the back of the goal, that's chipped around by Murphy. Pinching is Zalapski, tries for Bourque, but it is one-handed away by Gord Murphy. On out to Sinisalo, took a hit from Johnson, but was able to punch it further, and quickly back come the Penguins for the dump in by Cullen. 90 seconds to go in the first period. Prop gets his 50th career playoff goal, 12th of the playoff, 6th of this series at 17:41. We'll get the assist for you in a moment. But it is Coffey flipping, and that one gloved down by Mario Lemieux. Lemieux has a man breaking air. He flips one to him, and it's tipped wide. Samuelson rolled it along, but we get a stoppage of play. A penalty to the Flyers. A power play to the Penguins with 1:12 left in this first period.
Well, the Penguins have a golden opportunity here to get back into it. With 1:12 to go in the first, Dave Poulin is headed to the box. That's a double hit against the Flyers because Poulin is pretty well the top forward penalty killer for the Flyers, so he has to sit for this one. The one advantage that the Flyers have is that this power play, if it ends up all the way running through, will overlap. Here's the call right here. Almost looked like six just got tangled up.
You see that as an advantage?
I think so. Yeah, when you have a power play that is spread over 2 periods, I always think it's an advantage. Advantage to the killer. I know when I killed them, I always wanted it to overlap. Basically, what you're doing is killing 2 one-minute power plays instead of 1 2-minute power play, and I always thought that that was easier.
And you get that 15-minute breather in between, too.
Sure.
So you could really go with the same 4 guys for the whole power play, can't you?
Well, Lemieux's going to stay out there for all 2 minutes on the power play. You can't keep your penalty killers out there for all 2 minutes, but spread over 2 periods, you can keep the same guys out there that you need.
Right. Coffey fires. It pops off the stick of Reagan. In comes Dan Quinn. Loses to Prop, lifts it along, and it's Zalapski. Given a good shoulder by Sutter, and he's able to yank it back out. Prop boomed into that time by Cunnyworth. Still they wrestle along, and Prop tries to muscle it further. Pivoting with this is Dan Quinn. Starts back, wants to go by Howe. Shakes one quickly across to Cunnyworth. Cunnyworth finesses it over to Paul Coffey. Down to the last 35 seconds of the period. Coffey readies and then sends it back to Quinn. Quinn flips it back over. Lemieux has set up shop on the opposite circle than normal twice tonight now. It is Coffey firing, and that blocked away by Sutter. Sutter jams it along, but Lemieux is right there waiting. Centered one, and it went by the whip of Cunnyworth. Drive by Coffey, and that one popped into the seats.
No, it's just not happening for the Penguins power play tonight. Paul Coffey one-time that one, and that's been the story of the Penguins power play this whole series. The Flyers have denied them the real slick plays, the little passes in front. Oh, a couple of them have worked, but in general, they've denied the Penguins the seam passes, the ones through the box, the ones through the diamond that really force everybody to turn around, and it's a monster when it happens to you. They have kept the Penguins on the outside and forced them to take a lot of perimeter shots, especially Paul Coffey. They've done a good job of killing Even with that, though, the talent that the Penguins have, how many power play goals they have in this series? A bunch, and they scored 119 during the regular season to set an NHL record. I'm sure a lot of the goals were scored just with the same type of system as we're watching here. Not much of a system, just great big blasts from talented guys.
Off the face-off, the puck worked back to Coffey, fires, and that one knocked down. Rebound forced wide by Ron Sutter. That one may have got all the way through the screen to the goalkeeper Reggett. Down the last 5 seconds of the period. Loose puck brushed across by Rob Brown, brought up by Howe as the horn sounds to end the first period of play. 48 seconds of power play time will still be available to the Penguins at the start of the second. The shots on goal. 13 for the Flyers, 11 for the Penguins. The lone goal, Propp, his 6th of the series, 12th of the playoffs from Sutter and Tocchet at 17:41. With the score from Civic Arena, the Flyers 1 and the Penguins nothing. Let's return to our studios.
All right, Mike. Alan Shiv.